Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right in today, taking a magnifying glass to a very specific, heavily circulated promotional offer, the Canada Work Visa offer for direct employment as a caregiver. We're going to impartially unpack the big claims, the strict requirements, and the exact step-by-step process outlined in this material, so you can fully grasp what's actually being pitched here.
Okay, let's dive right into this. The source material kicks things off with a massive, attention-grabbing claim, calling this a powerful opportunity that can literally change your life. I mean, talk about coming out swinging, right? It's a high-stakes premise designed to hook you instantly, completely targeting folks who are eager to move abroad, earn their income in a stable currency, and essentially build an entirely new future from scratch.
So that naturally leads us to the big question, a question actually posed by the source material itself. So what exactly is this opportunity? Before we get totally lost in the weeds of paperwork and prerequisites, we really need to map out the bare bones of what's being offered. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how clearly it structures the pitch. We're going to break this down into 4 core sections: the Canadian opportunity, the caregiver role, do you qualify, and finally, the step-by-step process. All right, let's start with Section 1, the Canadian opportunity and understanding the real-world demand behind it. According to the text, Canada is positioning itself as incredibly welcoming to foreign workers right now. And the engine driving this specific offer? It's a massive demographic shift. We're talking about Canada's aging population colliding head-on with a huge spike in demand for care services. To fill that gap, the source notes they are actively recruiting caregivers from abroad, specifically calling out targeted recruitment from countries like Nigeria and other parts of Africa. So, the crucial point is exactly what they mean by a direct employment caregiver job. Listen, this isn't about flying over and just crossing your fingers that you'll find work once you land. No, this means you secure an employer in Canada who is ready to hire you before you ever pack your bags. Your visa is tied directly to that verified offer, so you land legally and boom, you start earning on day one. And the pitch definitely front-loads the perks. The promised benefits are exactly what you'd hope for: a competitive salary paid out in dollars, a fully legal work permit, and eventual opportunities for permanent residency. They even mention possible accommodation support from your employer, plus the obvious bonus of gaining genuine international work experience. But they go a step further than just temporary work. This is a really significant claim here. They brand this as a pathway to long-term settlement. The source specifically highlights that some of these Canadian caregiver pathways actually allow workers to bring their family members over later down the line. So they aren't just selling a job, they're essentially pitching a lifelong, generational shift. Moving right along to Section 2, the caregiver role, and what the job actually entails on a daily basis. The material gets very real about the day-to-day, and you certainly won't be sitting behind a desk. You might be taking care of the elderly, assisting children, or helping out folks with special needs. It's incredibly hands-on, helping with feeding, assisting with bathing, and just providing genuine, constant companionship. It's a highly demanding role that absolutely requires a ton of human empathy and direct physical support. Which brings us to Section 3, do you qualify? Because all those life-changing benefits definitely come with some strict, mandatory prerequisites. Right off the bat, there are non-negotiable baselines to even get your foot in the door. Applicants absolutely must have a minimum of a secondary school education paired with basic English communication skills. These are basically your initial gatekeepers before anyone will even look at your application. Now, this part is actually super interesting. When it comes to prior experience, the promotional text offers some surprising flexibility. It explicitly says your required caregiving experience can be either formal, like working in a hospital or clinic, or completely informal. That's a massive deal. Informal experience could literally mean you've spent years taking care of a sick family member at home. The fact that both are cited as valid completely opens the door for folks without traditional healthcare backgrounds. But listen, while the experience side might have some wiggle room, the vetting process, it's incredibly rigid. And this brilliantly illustrates the intense security involved. You've got to clear a mandatory medical fitness exam, prove a totally clean background record, hold a valid international passport, and provide a whole stack of supporting documents like reference letters and training certificates. You really have to prove exactly who you say you are. Finally, let's jump into Section 4, the step-by-step process navigating the actual application timeline.
Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds out chronologically, exactly as they outline it. Step 1, and honestly, probably the hardest part, is securing that verified job offer from a Canadian employer. Step 2 is meticulously gathering all those strict background documents we just talked about. Step 3 is officially applying for your work permit. Step 4, playing the waiting game for government approval. And finally, step 5 is traveling to Canada and starting your new life.
Now, I want to pause here because it's highly notable that the source text itself drops a really critical warning. It explicitly tells applicants that it is absolutely vital to use a trusted platform or a verified agency. Why? To avoid the massive industry of scams out there targeting hopeful immigrants. It's just a stark, honest acknowledgement from the source that the immigration landscape is full of risks, and making sure everything is legitimate is absolutely paramount.
Which brings us right to the exact question the source leaves us with. Could your journey to Canada begin right now? We've laid out the life-changing promises, the incredibly strict requirements, and the very real risk of scams. So the real question you have to ask yourself isn't just if you qualify on paper, but are you actually prepared to navigate the rigorous reality behind the pitch? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and I'll catch you next time.